So we'll call the meeting of the Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS Fire Station Building Committee to order. It's 4:28:25. It is 5:30 p.m. Those in attendance: Matt Osher, Kevin, Tim, Paul, Dennis, Nate, the chief from the public, Helen Hockenberg.
And close.
What is it?
Hardenberg.
Hardenberg. Sorry. Helen Hardenberg and Deputy Chief Mike Robinson. Brain freeze. So the first thing we'll do is review the minutes from our last meeting. And I must comment that Lauren is doing a very comprehensive job with our minutes, which from my perspective is good because it's public record. I think Tim had a correction.
I just wanted to note that, Lauren, I was at the meeting. This is Commissioner Sattler. I was in attendance at that meeting. I mean, you could deal with some spelling and
Yeah.
issues like that, but there's not really.
Nate and Matt were not here, so, and actually, was Kevin here?
Was not.
Okay, so there's 3 of us that can vote on the minutes. I make a motion that we add Commissioner Sattler's name to those present and accept the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that. That's Dennis.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. So, the next thing on the non-existent agenda is, well, before we do that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Finance Committee and if we've made any progress on that. That's not directly our responsibility, but I'd like an update if I could. Thank you, Nate.
Well, I can give an update. I contacted, the commissioners agreed to a finance committee. We put together a list of folks to contact. At that meeting, Deputy Chief Balvenie agreed to be on that committee. We accepted Lisa as the representative for the building committee. And then there was a number of other people on the list that I started contacting. One of those being Tim Pearson, who declined.
Eric Adams.
No, Tilton Selectman Hanson. I apologize, I just flew back in today. I didn't read any of my notes. John Hanson.
I think it is Hanson.
John Hanson agreed. One of the Northfield selectmen I contacted, he's on vacation in Europe. He did reply back that he received my message and that he would talk to me this week.
Which one?
Ross. Stephanie asked to think about it and she would get back to me. Who else was on that list? You contacted somebody and hadn't heard, as far as I know, you haven't heard back, or do you have?
I have heard that.
Okay.
So I contacted Lori Ann Baldick, who's the branch manager of Franklin Savings Bank in Tilton, and she declined. She said she's got too much going on.
Who are you waiting to hear from?
Ross and Steph.
Lots of stuff.
Now, I thought Eric Adams was on your list. Maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe he could be.
What is the makeup of that
So we were looking for folks in the community that would be able to bring some financial thought to the table as far as funding, fundraising, evaluating the apparatus equipment fund to help us with how we think that fund is going to grow and what we think the costs are going to be and whether there's any money to come out of that realistically.
The current balance in the land and building fund is to be considered as well, how to use that.
And then as well as any other things that we haven't thought of that maybe could be available to us.
How many members?
It was like 6 or so.
Yeah, it's around there. I guess we have to kind of wait and see who agrees to be on it.
I assume that there'll be a commissioner's rep also.
Yeah, I'm going to be the commissioner for that.
Okay. So you've got 2 question marks, and that will give you,
On Deputy Belvane,
yeah,
Yeah,
That would
Lisa
give you-
Belvane, and then
John Hanson,
and so that's 3.
Ross Cunningham is a question mark, Steph Giovanucci is a question mark, Tim Sadler. So you have 4 right now. You'd probably want to have an odd number, right?
Well, and I don't think that I would be a voting member on that, but I would shy away from one member or 2.
I was thinking it should be an even number if the commissioner representative is a voting member, because then they could be the tiebreaker vote.
What's the authority?
advise the commissioners.
It's just
Yeah.
an advisory.
What do you
Same as
plan on
against
voting?
commissioners.
So just being an advisory committee, maybe you don't need to worry about a quorum. Okay, so,
Is that a subcommittee for the Board of Commissioners?
I guess you would call it something.
So they have to keep minutes? They have to take votes? If you're gonna vote, you gotta have an odd number.
Yep.
okay. I
So,
just
yes.
wanted an update, I don't want to
Yeah.
belabor.
So
And-
we'll maybe have another weekend or next week. So
And
next week.
excuse me for not putting you first on the agenda, but any input from the public?
In
There'll be plenty of
relative to
the building committee.
anything at all.
Yep.
Yes, I do, and if I could have probably 5 minutes. If you ask for my opinion, I'll always have one. I'm not asking you to agree with it. I come to you this evening in front of my boss, but I think he and I have a relationship good enough that we've, from his onset, we've agreed that we may not always agree, but I'll always have an opinion. I think starting going forward, and if I take up too much of your time, please cut me off. I think number one, the most important thing is 2 stations. We have got to keep 4 firefighters together in one of those stations. If we are not going to add 2 more people with the other stations, stations are no good without people. If the intention is to split the crew, let's stop now. As I speak for myself and for many of the firefighters within the department. If the intention is to build 2 stations and split the people up, stop, let's save money. We'll continue to operate the way we are until we can get that resolved. I understand this is going to be a 4 to 5 to 6 year plan. You know, with a final outcome of 2 stations, keeping, Center Street on board until the 2 stations are complete. So again, that's paramount. If we're not getting 2 extra people, stations are no good without people. So again, I think we're past that, but I'm not sure. I've come to you with lots of years involved with this department. I think this may be the 8th attempt, somewhere thereabouts. I believe I was involved with 4 of those attempts. I've kept my head low in the committee because maybe I was part of the cause. Maybe it was time for fresh blood to get into, these committees. Remember, we're operating right now with an office for everybody. We have 6 major pieces that we have to house in some smaller places. Smaller vehicles that need to be accommodated for. But remember, everything we have now fits undercover. All that being said, do we need more space? Of course we do. We've been operating out of a station that was built in the 1800s. We used to house 5 pieces of apparatus in that station. But the apparatus has changed. It's gotten bigger. Remember, apparatus is not going to get any taller, and it's not getting any wider. Road conditions and federal laws do not allow us to go any higher than what that ladder truck is now. We've got 13 feet 6 inches, and that's it. We've got a certain width of about 8'6", which we're there. They're not going to get any wider. They can't get any taller. I have a gut reaction to what I've seen so far. And I'm looking at the Sandman Road Fire Station. I ask you to look at other departments with substations. City of Laconia does probably twice this call volume. Please, don't hold me to that. Their substation, 2 bays, 2 deep. City of Concord, a whole lot more calls than we have. Typically, their substations, 2 bays, 2 deep. We need to accommodate a couple of firefighters in a substation. And certainly, my gut reaction is 2 bays, 2 deep. I also realize that we're looking at headquarters being down in Northfield. I think that's awesome. For years we've operated with call firefighters working out of a barn. We try to encourage call firefighters to join our department, but sometimes we've got a big separation down there because we never have typically any access to administrative people. Oops, I got a ripped piece of gear. What's going on with this? Sometimes we're alone. Now, don't get me wrong. Our permanent personnel is top shelf. They get along very well. We train together, and our permanent personnel is fantastic. But boy, what a morale builder it might be to have call firefighters at headquarters where they have access to Kathy to say, hey, can you help me out, with certain things. That's going to be fantastic, I really believe. But the other thing that I look at is, and help me out, I believe we're currently operating in spaces to the tune of about 10,000 square feet. Does that sound reasonable? 60 by 80 down there, roughly 60 by 80 up here, but 2 floors. I think my math is right, around 10,000 square feet. As I understand, we're proposing 30,000 square feet for 2 stations.
20-something, isn't it?
Sanborn.
29,000, 27,000.
Somewhere in there,
Sanborn Road is 11,000.
That's,
10-6 to Sanborn.
Yeah. And what's the proposed?
They didn't do the total on
No,
this one.
but
19?
19? So we're talking about 29,000 square feet total for personnel? That's 3 times bigger than what we got right now. I think we're gonna run into trouble with that. I've been on committees where this stuff has been thrown out. And I really appreciate the work you people do, but 4 times I was on one of these committees. We diced it, we sliced it, we did everything we could, and it got refused. And I'm telling you, you know, I would walk away and say, okay, you know, there's 40 hours of my life I'm not getting back. You know, I don't want to be on another committee type thing. So the impression that I'm getting from many of the firefighters, both call and fire department, call and permanent personnel, and even from permanent personnel that don't pay taxes in this community. We have a lot of permanent personnel. I mean, if I was a permanent firefighter and I lived in another town, get me the biggest and best you can get, because it ain't gonna cost them a penny. They're telling me this is too big. I truly believe this is not gonna fly at its current size. Now, I did have conversations with the chief, you know, and basically, chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but here's the Escalade. Now, let's throw it out at him, and let's see if we can trim it down to a smaller SUV. Let's get something that fits. I personally would love to be able to reuse that bay section down there. Is there any creativity? There's things I understand with new restrictions that come with the building, but I mean, could the front of that building be removed? Break it down to 3 bays? Would a support bracket in there? Would it save money? I don't know that. But we gotta make room for basically 6 primary vehicles, and I'm seeing room for 5 in this, and how many in the Northfield station?
6.
6. You're making room for 11 vehicles. Only got 6. And I can tell you, historically, there are support equipment. Please don't.
That's including support equipment.
Okay,
Like
that
the
includes.
forestry
Yeah.
and the pickup and stuff like that.
And I question, you know, with the size of these bays, you know, could they be, you know, put in there differently, reduce our space? I look at the Sanborn Road site, doors both ends, drive-through fire stations or doors on both ends. I believe doors are much more expensive than just walls. And by having doors on the back side, now you've lost storage space by having doors there. I just, looking this preliminarily, if you're going with everything you got here, you're not getting my support. As a voter or as a taxpayer. Let's get down to something that's bigger. We need the space, we really do.
Well,
But
what you've
is
kind,
it too big?
what you've kind of done is put us in a quandary. And
I
that quandary is, we paid $13,000 to have a survey done to all the voters, and the results we got back steered us towards no consensus, and it was basically, we need a station in Northfield, we need one in Tilton.
Agreed.
And then this committee asked the commissioners for a new recommendation based upon the results of that survey. Now, our old mandate was 1 sentence. Recommend to the commissioners a shovel-ready plan that can be voted on at the 2024 district meeting for a fire station that meets the district's current needs. we went from that one line to the recommendation from the deputy chiefs, including yourself.
Yes.
And Sean Valvani and Chief Seatar. So, are you now saying that you do not agree with this recommendation, or that you're...
I totally agree with that recommendation, but that doesn't, with that recommendation, it doesn't talk about the physical size of it. My recommendation through that whole thing is, certainly, let's get everything that fits. I'm just saying, I think we can get it to fit in 2 stations. But the other thing that I made sure was in there, reality is, our current fire chief will probably never even see the first shovel go in the ground due to retirement. I may never see it go in the ground because I'm going to retire. My biggest thing in that whole thing is Sean Valvani. This should be his fire station with lots of his recommendations, because he's going to be the one that's going to see it completed.
I think this committee has embraced Sean's opinions. I think in all of my experiences with him, he's a very intelligent, very well-spoken.
Yes, he
Has
is.
his finger on the pulse, no frills. So I value his opinion greatly. But what I'm looking at now is this is what we've been working under, this new mandate, so to speak. So what you're suggesting is this recommendation or this mandate be modified. And
As I recall, the recommendation that we made was to go with a 2-station idea, 4 people in each station. 4 people at a primary location, 2 people at a secondary location.
with the intention of hiring 2 more people
Correct.
in the future.
Yep.
Which I think is a given.
Yep, all of my recommendations.
Okay, so what you're saying then is, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying this evening is you're still going by that, but what you think is that the apparatus space could be minimized, or?
I
what?
truly believe that, and we gotta get the size down on this.
So, with respect to the rest of the building, I think it's funny because this revised Sanborn Road drawing actually came back bigger than the previous one by 231 square feet. So our modified version is actually bigger than the original. So,
So you got an engine, a ladder truck, 2 ambulances, and 2 people at Salmon Road.
and a pickup truck and a boat and trailer.
Yep. I think logistics and spacing somewhere else could slice a bay right off there.
Well, that was one of the things at our last meeting we asked for Lorero to look at is do we need, and this is why it's so important for Derek's comments and Matt's comments. For me, I could say 2 feet on the side of an ambulance is plenty. Well, not if the door is 2.5 feet wide and he's got to, you got to wheel a cart over with supplies and stuff. So that's why we're relying on these 2 gentlemen so greatly with respect to operations.
And remember, their boss sits on this committee. And I think in some cases, they may hold back.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just have a question on the
Well-
boat and trailer.
Let's wait and have that conversation after we finish this one, because if we can come to a consensus with what Mike is proposing, then that's probably going to drive a lot of the other questions. And Nate, all I'm saying is I want to put my blinders on right now. I want to address this one issue, and then we'll move, and we'll talk about anything you want, okay? So, what you're saying then, Mike, is you stand by this recommendation, and what you're asking us to do tonight is reduce the square footage.
Yes. Is
For the
that
most
fair,
part.
and is that how you interpret it? Because, again, that was very general. It didn't get into sizing at all.
This recommendation was general?
It's very general. There's no, all that is this is what we like. It doesn't talk about square footage,
Right, that's why we're here.
which is where the problem, I think, is.
Compare this to the one sentence previous mandate, and I'd look at this as being very precise as far as the direction that those three gentlemen expect this department to be headed in.
But
Now,
I'm hearing Mike say that he's just very concerned about the total size and getting the taxpayers to agree.
in the cost.
And that's number one, and the cost.
I think we can count
Because-
square foot.
No one here, and probably no one in the district, has the background that Michael Robinson has.
That's true, but I mean, what we're talking about is we're also talking about the future. Now, are we gonna build to what we need right now again, when we're talking about, we've already been briefed by Sean Galvani about, calls looking to go up, they're probably gonna be EMS calls, and they're talking about more equipment, more ambulances. Did we not have that conversation?
And I think you're accurate, but I think your equipment, and again, my opinion, the only place it needs to grow is possibly another ambulance. You know, as we put together guidelines for a fire chief, my number one guideline always was for a fire chief is to maintain relationships with surrounding communities. Because they're going to be your backup. There's only so much call people can do during the day. Since, with my tenure here, our equipment count has dropped by 3 over the last 48 years. Our equipment count has dropped. I don't foresee us adding equipment. I foresee the future of trying to consolidate, get more regionalization. The future I see is a reduction in equipment.
You're preaching to the choir with respect to regionalization,
Yes.
and without diverting, like I just asked Nate not to, but we had a regionalization committee a number of years ago where Sanford and Franklin and Tilton Northfield representatives, we all sat down, worked up a plan of how we regionalize. And at the end of the day, my feeling is it will never occur at a local level. It has to be driven by the legislature in Concord. And I'll tell you the main reason why, because if you regionalize 3 or 4 or 5 departments, there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And the losers are not going to take it. They're not going to jump up and down and say, I want to regionalize. And by losers, I mean increased taxes and longer response times and poorer service. So I'm fully on board with the regionalization, and I've actually been speaking with members of our legislature about that. But I don't think that we need another big question mark in our mandate.
And I apologize for kicking mud in your face. It was something I felt that I had to say when it comes to regionalization. We're the prime example of regionalization. We've been regionalized here for 100 years. 100 years, a long time. we've worked with two communities. I totally believe, we're on the right track. The two-station thing can work as long as we stay forward too. I would certainly invite anybody, to take a look at some of these stations. There's a little station down in Londonderry I'm in love with. It is such a nice, now I've never toured it, and I would encourage members to do it. 2 bays, double deep. It has simulated arch doors, but it's not all brick. It's not vinyl siding, but it looks to be an affordable, nice attraction to the community, and it looks like there's plenty of space. Haven't been in it. If you go online, just look at Londonderry substations. This substation's for the airport, and what a great looking little place, and it looks affordable. Other than at one point they drove a fire truck through one of the doors.
So
They were
Does
without a door for about
does that
6 months.
substation have living quarters in it as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I have very strong concerns about the overall cost of this plant. And I kind of zipped my lip on that because of the recommendation that we received from you, Sean, and Chief Seatar. So, I share your concerns, and I am worried as to whether this would pass in the manner that we're laying it out. But I fall back on this, saying this is what you gentlemen, or what the commissioners asked us to do.
Yeah, so I guess, different question, now. The Sanborn Road station that we're looking at right now, would this be all the space we need to replace Center Street Station?
This is
Because
not,
I'm
no, it's
assuming,
not,
no,
doesn't
'cause it
have
doesn't have-
administrative areas in it.
There's no,
It's just strictly for staff. And it allows for 4 firefighters to be there 24/7 because, 10 years down the road or 12 years down the road instead of 2.
We could add.
Yeah.
Yep, and I certainly, support planning for that.
I guess my other thing is, for the boat and trailer, can we just stick that in a shipping container? Like, is it narrow enough where we
Well-
could just, because that's like a $5,000 solution to a keeping something undercover problem.
So where's the shipping container going to be?
Right
Do we-
next to
do-
the building.
Do we have access to it when we need to in an emergency? The motor can't freeze because it has to stay in an environment
It's got to
that's
stay indoors because
controlled.
of the batteries and all the liquid in it.
There needs to be space around the main apparatus, again, to work, maintain, clean, everything else, but typically, things like the boat are certainly valuable, but low utilization. So if you had to put something together or tight alongside of it, as long as you've got safe walking around it, does it need a 20 by 40 bay to put a boat in? I wouldn't think so. It's going to look awful lonely sitting there, and certainly I invite you to look at what we've got down there now, which is not ideal. We've got trip hazards. We've got a forestry truck backed up to, and but some of it, because of low utilization, could be tucked in. And my fear is, again, perception by the public. We're looking at, though it's not a true 3-bay double deep, what are you guys going to buy to fill that space? It's a perception thing. Now, could it be designed to add on to? I don't know. Again, we got engineers that figure that out, but Paul, it bothers me that you bring up the letter of what it was, nothing in that letter talks about dimension, it talks about more operational. And I stand behind what's in there, and I signed it. I don't mean to throw mud at you.
But would it be inappropriate to ask you all? I mean, the last few times we've been here, the firefighters show up and we get something different every time. And then you addressed a point, Mike, about, well, certain members don't feel comfortable talking in front of other members, depending on if you're on the call force, you're on the active force, if you're on what force. And quite frankly, I think the fire department, as far as call fire and full-time fire and chiefs involved, probably ought to put on the big boy pants and be able to talk to each other openly and come up with what we want for space, because you know what, we're barring the firefighters in the room, we are laymen, like Kevin was saying, to his point, we are laymen as far as that goes. We're volunteers from the community trying to do something, and it's like we come up with this, it's like, and you know, then I hear, oh well, you know what, the firemen, they don't care about a new station, they just want this or that. Okay, fine, so let's modify this or that. And then 2 months later, it's like, well, we got a plan out. Nah, you know what? I just think at this point, are we just spinning our wheels waiting for you? I mean, I think that you guys need to figure it out and then sit down with the commissioners and come up with something. Because having facility committees and having finance committees and all this stuff, looking for volunteers to come out and participate on these boards and whatnot, is for naught if we're going to come in every single time. And I'm not saying that reducing the size, I'm not against that at all. I don't have an opinion. All I have an opinion on right now is like, what the hell are we doing if, you know, every time we move forward, the next time we meet, it's like, and I'm saying, we're hearing different things from from you guys, the employees of the fire department. So, I mean, I think it's reasonable. I don't know if am I being unreasonable?
No, you're not being
for everybody
unreasonable,
to get their act together?
because this is one of the main reasons for me to be here tonight. There's been a lot of talk going on. Somebody had to come in, put their big boy pants on, and say, look, we may disagree with what the chief is proposing. You know, some of the perception is, you have a meeting, you say, what do you want? He disappears, talks to Lorero, they come back, and there it is. And then he convinces you that this is what we need, and...
I don't know if it's convincing, but I mean, I've heard, you know, it's like, I've had other firefighters in here talking about, when you talk about spacing, it's like, well, how much space do you need between the trucks? And they say, well, we have both ambulances or engines or whatnot opened up. Like I said, we're submitting to the expertise of the firefighters.
Exactly.
And if you tell me, well, actually, it's good to have this much space because when we open up the trucks, because we're in and out, doing this and that with equipment, I'm like, okay, makes sense to me.
How much space is in between the trucks?
What's that?
How much space is
Well, it looks like quite a bit, really. I mean, if you're telling me that the widest truck is 8.5 feet,
You got 7.5 feet.
and you're looking at 18 feet, so you got a 14-foot bay door.
7.5 feet between them.
And what are we currently
And
at,
then-
chief?
So it's essentially
5
18 feet per truck.
The bays, I'm not gonna talk about Center Street, I don't even know.
Yeah,
about
that's-
those bays.
yep.
But the bays at Park Street, the doors are 12 feet wide,
Yeah,
and there's like 2 feet in between
so it's
each door.
14 foot.
So
Yep.
the bays are like an average of 16 feet,
Yeah.
which is a little too tight,
Can I say something?
So,
I think-
in my
Can I
opinion.
say
but
something?
I'll-
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think so we have two plans, right? And we don't know a cost per square foot yet. And we're talking about cutting things. I could, like, if we get a cost per square foot and we can go around after and be like, okay, what do we really need? Do we need 7.5, 8 feet between each fire truck? No, let's not do that. Let's cut savings there. Do we really need indoor storage for our lawnmower and snowblower? No. Okay, let's cut savings there. Like, we can talk about cutting tonight all we want, but it's not going to happen until we have a cost per square foot.
well, we
Well,
know,
I
we
think
know
like-
it's north of $500.
Right, so let's get a cost per square foot and come back in the next meeting and then discuss what we're going to cut. Like,
Well, I think that it's a valid point, but I think at the end of the day, whether it's 300 a square foot or 500 a square foot, we need to minimize this square footage regardless of what the cost is. Helen?
Thank you. Okay, I do have a question because I don't see the surrounding plan. What is the plan for the roads around? Is it going to be a road all the way around this building? So what is it going to be? Just
So
so
on
I understand.
Sanborn Road, are you familiar with where the police station is?
Well, I know where the police station is.
So the fire station would be to the left of that, where there's like trees in front of it, if you're looking at Sanborn Road, so those trees would have to come down. The fire station would be in there. The dirt parking lot would be on the right side of this building.
Up over here,
Yeah,
okay?
and the driveway would be to the left of that, the paved part.
And what's this
And
then?
then there would be pavement in the back.
Okay, so how do you get to this part?
It's a driveway that goes
So
around
you're
the
going to
back
have
on-
something all the way around,
on the
okay.
left.
So, as a complete outsider, but having built a lot of plants, production and warehousing plants, this plan for the apparatus visually looks to me like you got too much space in it. And they plotted the things. I know what you're saying about space between and whatever, but if you move the doors and have them all come out here and have 5 doors on this side, you can take off probably 20 by 80 right up front, take it off here.
So
And
you're at the mercy of the architect, the structure of the
didn't say-
building. Now, wait a sec, because this is a problem we have at Park Street right now, which is one wall is all doors. So we hired an architect to lay this out in a manner that it can be built to standards, and it can be built
well,
safely.
you've got the same number of doors. You got 5 doors. I'm just saying, put it on one side. But you're not changing anything in that respect. You're not reducing the doors. And a warehouse is complete with 40 doors down one wall. There's no reason why you can't.
So
There's no reason why you
why
can't
do we
that.
want 5 doors on one face? That's
Because
gonna
then
make the
you
building
can put the
longer.
apparatus next to each other and bring this back. And you can lose 20 by 80 square feet. That's 1,600 square feet right off the get-go.
But because of the land constraints, you'd have to turn the building this way to probably do that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know all of that part. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you've got too much space in this, and the architects that you hired put it in there. And I'm sure some of it's based on what they said for needs and so forth. But somehow you've got to condense it. Because I think you're right. I think there's going to be a problem when you go and you look like you've got a huge building that's hardly going to be used until you staff it up. And everybody's going to say, well, what's all of this space here? Why am I paying for this? So I don't think the architects really.
So it was smaller to begin with, but when we tried to make it more user-friendly for the firefighters, it actually got bigger
Yeah, I understand that. So
because
I'm
of
just,
flow. And
as
things like
a
that.
member of the public who's going to also be looking at this very critically when we get to that point to vote, you're going to have to address that issue.
Okay,
So,
so,
okay, that's all I had to say. I don't think.
Well, if I could just summarize it, I'm gonna sit back and shut up, because I think I've already stirred up enough. Dennis, one of my main reasons to come here was to put our big boy pants on, to let the firefighters know that are involved with this. I know this man very well. I work for him, they work for him. And I don't want these guys to be afraid, anybody that's involved, of expressing an opinion worried about disagreeing with their boss. I know the man very well. You disagree, you're not going to lose your job. And I just wanted to break that ice.
well,
So thank you, and thank you all very much for the time you put into this. I've been there 4 times, and it's very discouraging. When you work and you spend the money to get plans, and the answer is no. I don't see, and again, I've seen our equipment reduce over the years, not increase, and I don't see it increasing. Because again, remember, 70% of your call volume is medical. You might grow an ambulance, but you got to have people to run those too. I'm gonna sit back and be quiet, and certainly if you have.
Thank you so much for.
Well, I don't mean to stir it up. I really appreciate, but I just, we need some input. Again, in that charge, you know, I hope you lean heavily on Sean. He'll see it built. The chief and I probably never will. And it's gonna be his station, you know.
Thank you. Yes.
I take no offense to anything you said. In fact, I've been waiting since 2019 for you to come forward. Because you haven't done so. And I'm not throwing any errors.
Yep.
I'm thanking you,
Well, thank you for listening.
because there is no one who's, I mean, you just said 40,
It's 47,
70 years.
48 years this
48
month.
years.
Well, sometimes the old guy, we just want to put him out to pasture and go sit in the corner.
You know, I do have a couple of questions about what you said. Clarification more than anything else. The building committee has no say on number of personnel. But I will tell you, 2 stations with 6 people make no sense to me whatsoever. We know, from everything we know, you have a station that takes 4 people. So we're gonna build 2 stations. We're gonna half-man one of them. And it's inevitable that, just like Laconia, they're always going,
I don't disagree, Kevin, but remember, our number 1 call volume is medical calls.
Right.
Let's get that ambulance out the door because, you know, 2 out of every 3, the percentage is higher that it's gonna be a medical call. And, you know, we're getting to the point where we got enough paramedics on staff, we might be able to have a paramedic at each station. Let's keep our fingers crossed, but medical calls typically are always an emergency.
right. Relative to, you said 2 bays, 2 deep. Is that 2 bays, TWO, the number 2 bays?
Yes. So
And-
2 bays wide and 2 deep, enough to accommodate 4 vehicles.
So that's 48 by 96?
I guess,
Somewhere around
yeah.
there, I would say,
50 by 100? 5,000 square feet is what we have at Paxton.
Yeah.
The first time you said it, I thought you meant 2 deep as in excessively deep. So
No,
what's 2 deep?
I'm sorry, TWO. Thank you for that clarification.
I didn't,
Yes.
not TOO.
Yeah.
TW.
TWO,
right, exactly.
yep. And that gives you the
I knew
ability
you.
to expand. And logistics, you know, you plan the vehicles as you would respond, because typically an alarm activation, if there's going to be a medical call that requires 4 people to be there, typically you're rolling out with an ambulance and an engine to certain in-depth medical calls, if you allow me to use that. And then the vehicles behind it become secondary pieces, or pieces that a call person might come up with. And, you know, certainly during the process, in the past, when they were redoing the Canyon Bridge in 1977, we only had the Center Street Station. We worked out with the town of Northfield. We stationed 1 fire truck at the Northfield Highway Garage in the event something happened on the bridge, that at least we could get 1 piece of apparatus into Northfield. Are those out there possibilities? I don't know, you know. Relationships where if we're finding trouble, you know, we work with the communities, give us 1 bay, because remember, we gotta keep them warm, you know. But thank you for the comments, I appreciate it.
So, let's circle back around there, and with respect to the cost per square foot, let's get a consensus. Do we design the building based upon what our needs are, or do we base it upon what we think our budget is? And that's a question.
That's a great question, because, I mean, in the future, you're gonna need all this stuff, probably, but that's probably 20, 30 years from now. What's the town willing to pay, is what you need to figure out as a taxpayer. If I was a taxpayer, I wouldn't pay for this. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm all set. And that's my personal, but I'm not a taxpayer in this town, so I work for the community.
Well, I mean, I was on a committee, I was actually the commissioner at the time, where a $4 million station got voted down
Right.
because it was too expensive.
So that's the thing, like, there was a $7 million station back, the East Main Street station, the Tilton Road Crossing, that got voted down, like, and now we're probably upwards in the cost of what, $20 million for 2 fire stations. When the town voted down a $7 million station 6 or 7 years ago.
So I think that's a really good point in the sense of, so just for, comparable project, the water district is working on building a new water treatment plant. It was expected to cost $15 million. When the bids came in, it was $19, $20 million. They had to rescope the project, significantly reduce the size of the treatment plant, and they were able to get it down to around 14, 15 million just for the annual meeting that just happened. So like, at the moment, construction costs are up. And given that the community wouldn't support a $4 million or a $7 million plan, could we do either proposal for under 10 million? And is it even worth moving forward at this point in time with the current economics? Because the town of Tilton just had their 5-year review. Next year, Northfield's getting their 5-year review on their taxes, so they're going to go up.
We get it adjusted every year. They do a 5-year evaluation, but it's adjusted every year. But let's not forget the reason that we spent $13,000 to have the survey sent out was to find out what the townspeople wanted. And we got something very similar to this.
Yeah. They want to maintain the status quo. They want a station in both towns.
Right. So,
but we can't afford to do both.
Well, what I cannot get through my thick head is, are we working to design a station that meets the needs of the fire department, cost be damned, or are we saying we have a $10 million budget and we have to fit within that? Because they're kind of polar opposites.
They are.
I mean,
I'm tired of beating my head against the wall. I'm sorry.
Isn't that suicide? I have to stay within this much money because I don't care what you're buying, whether it's a candy bar or a jet plane.
You're not going to be happy with it.
You got 75 cents for a candy bar, but God damn it, that candy bar is $1.25. And you can't buy 2/3 of it.
Right. So, we have this quandary, and it's the same one year after year. What are we doing here? Are we trying to put together a proposal that meets the needs of the fire district, or are we just trying to get something passed? And I've been on the just trying to get something passed, and it hasn't worked. So I think whether this passes or not, in whatever form we finalize it as, the thing that we have behind us right now are the results of that survey. What we're doing is what you asked us to do. If you're unwilling to pay for it, then that's on you. That's not on us. So my feeling is we need to put together plans for 1 station, 2 station, whatever. This recommendation says 2 stations. We need to put together the least expensive proposal to meet that goal. Whether it's at $300 a square foot, $500 or $700. But-
just, it just, you know, I'm a 50,000-foot view kind of mindset. A lot of us have been here a long time, and Dennis and Paul, and you've all been fire commissioners, and, you know, we as a fire district have an obligation to provide a safe working environment for our firefighters, and a safe environment to maintain the millions of dollars worth of equipment we've accumulated over the years. And, you know, that's why we keep trying to come up with a plan to get us out of the 160-plus-year-old building now, because we have that obligation. So, you know, from that standpoint, you know, here we are. Now, the chief could come up with a building, send it out and get a quote on it, and not need any of our input. But obviously,
Well, no, we couldn't.
that's not how we want to do it. We want to get input, but it's also the bigger picture. The more input you get, the more people involved, the better the word spreads, and the ability to sell the solution to the voters and taxpayers. So, you know, we have to go through this sometimes frustrating, long, drawn-out process to get to that point. And we're not all going to, agree on, go back to your candy bar analogy. You want a Three Musketeer and I want a Kit Kat. They're both candy bars, and they'll both, solve my urge. But what's the best one for the district? So I know it gets frustrating.
The Milky Way.
Thanks for all the input and all the time. And going back to that survey, well, we know it doesn't work, and we know that's, the biggest problem that we keep having is cost. But we also know that coming up with a solution here, well, this group of people aren't going to vote for it, and coming up with a solution here, that group of people aren't going to vote for it. And we're limited about where those solutions can be, and, then are we building for this year? Are we building for 20 years from now? Are we building for 160 plus years from now? So we sort of have to go through this process, no matter how painful it is. But we'd like to think that we have enough expertise that we present the best solution.
Do you think time is on our side or time is against us?
I think
In what
pricing will be
context?
better in 4 years.
Sorry?
I think pricing will be better in 4+ years.
I think pricing never gets better. It
Well,
always
whether or
is.
not there's an active trade war tariff situation going on. Although I
But,
guess we're so
that's
far
my
out from
question
actual
is-
construction.
Whenever I looking at a big picture, is time with me or against me? If it's with me, I can find a reasonable solution down the road. If it's against me, I'm gonna do this the best I can do it right now. And make it so that if it becomes more favorable, I can do it in a way that I can do something different in time.
So I guess going back to the feasibility that Tim was talking about as far as, well, some people will only vote for this, some people will only vote for that. Do we actually think the current proposed plan of moving the primary station to Northfield and having a potentially manned station in Tilton is going to pass the voters?
I don't think it will, but I don't think it has anything to do with headquarters.
No,
I think
it's money.
it has to do with money, and it has to do with tearing down what I'm going to call perfectly okay apparatus space to build new apparatus space.
Yeah, I think that's the issue in the sense of whatever we're spending at Park Street to revamp and expand it,
It's not perfect.
you could have just spent that money at any other location to build a new building, even if it was just in Northfield. Say fucking Ken Partridge was gonna sell, give the town, the district, 20 acres to build a building. Would they even, consider the cost acceptable then?
I don't think that's the issue. I think it is a issue, but it's not that is not the issue. That is an issue.
Is there the issue?
No, it's a whole bunch of little issues.
It's
We,
all
we,
one-
we don't have one issue.
It's
We've
all
got a whole
bunch
bunch.
It's a whole bunch of little turds in a big pile of shit.
That's right.
That's where we are.
That's where we're at.
I think as
I mean,
far
I
as
think
like
for some
square
people, there's a benefit of, I think a lot of people like the idea of having the main station. All right, but that's just one, that's one group of people who think that's a good idea.
But in
I mean,
terms of spending the least amount of money and being the most cost effective, we have, X square footage of usable space at Park Street currently. So we can either just, add on new space to get to the, 19,000 that we need, or redevelop that and add on the same amount of space. Like, the cost effective option that is more palatable to taxpayers isn't, let's rebuild Park Street and build another
The
station.
logistical, operational benefit of having admin down at Park Street, I think, was well verbalized by the chief and the 2 deputies as far as that's where the call firefighters are.
Well, can the call firefighters not go to the new station?
None of us are gonna drive 3 miles that
Yeah.
way.
The call force is primarily in
You all live down
We're,
here, right?
we're all within a half mile to a mile. Michael may be the furthest one
I
away.
think in
And
Northfield,
That's the way it's been for 50 years, that the bulk of our firefighters have come from North.
So again, going back
But
to
I guess
what
what's the response rate of like the career day firefighters versus the on-call? Like, is it
I go back
50-50?
to the expertise of the deputy chiefs and the chiefs and the recommendation, because my recommendation was to put admin up at Sanborn Road. And it was explained to me all the benefits of having it down in Northfield, and it makes sense to me. The argument makes sense to me.
It does make sense, but the argument will change as management changes.
Well, and
Because
that
I've
made sense
been here
if
through
the
Petra,
career firefighters were
Carrier.
too.
Ober. Where am I going from there? Help me.
Right here.
Yep, that's it.
To our current chief. They all wear white shirts, they all think different, they all wanted something different. That is going to continue to happen.
And that's why Dr. Levine is a key and integral part of this committee, because, and I've had this conversation with this Deputy Robertson, and I said, whatever Deputy Belvani wants is really what we should be doing here. This is not my plan. This is not Deputy Robertson's plan. It's closer to Deputy Belvani's plan, but I don't think it's exactly the way he wants it either. Because every time we say we want something, everything in here is a compromise. It's a compromise of wanting more space to do things, but trying to be cognizant of cost and space. It's a compromise, well, we can make it smaller if we put this over here, but that means it's going to take us longer to do something in response to an emergency. So we try to adjust the building to make it easier to respond to an emergency, and I think that's important. I think most of the firefighters would think that's important. The way the building flows. You don't want to turn 28 turns to get to, like we do now, we have to turn, down the stairs, duck your head, turn again, go around things to get, it takes us forever to get out of the building. It shouldn't.
And Chief, you said it, I mean, I truly believe that if the design is 100% his choice, Sean has no input into it, Sean's gonna walk around for the next 5 years where, yeah, well, guess what, he put that over there. I think it needs to be his building so that he's gotta support it and sell these guys on, here's why we put it here. You know, he got nobody to blame it on.
At the same time, though, he, like myself, we get a set of plans from the architect, they come in, and first thing they do is throw it on the kitchen table.
Yep.
Let the guys look at it.
Yep.
Tear it apart. What's wrong with this? I know what's wrong with it from my point of view, but they have other points of view, and they say, no, that's stupid over there, put it over here.
I want to circle back to the call firefighter thing. You're talking about like, because like, well, like you just said, I'm not going to drive across town. don't take offense to it, but you're not here forever. I mean, right now, we can barely, I mean, I hear the arguments that we have less and less interest in people coming on as call firefighters. You know, and it's not a question. That's not a question, because no one can really answer that, because, you know, not more than rhetorically anyway. You know, we're talking about in the future, if we get personnel, I mean, we're gonna get full-time firefighter personnel. We'll be filling.
Well, eventually, it's gonna be
But
all
my point
full-time
is,
guys.
if we, you know, to concentrate on, you know, the needs, wants, and desires of a call department that exists right now, it just seems pretty short-sighted to me. I mean, because, yeah, it's an issue until it's not. You know, currently right now, yes, statistically speaking, it's always been Northfield that has been the higher number. I mean, I grew up in this community in the 70s, I remember. Yes, absolutely. I know where most of the people came from. Because like you said, I mean, Northfield's a bedroom community, really, for the most part. That's where a lot of the residents are. It's the way it is, again, until it's not. Because I don't think anyone can argue that the face of our communities are not changing. I mean, both communities, Tilton and Northfield, it's almost unrecognizable from the 70s, frankly.
Well, and when I joined, there were 45 call members. There are
Right.
now 12.
Right, and I remember when the horn used to blow and Arwoods would lose every single employee they had for the duration of a fire.
And it
But
all
that's
changes.
not gonna happen. I mean, that hasn't been the
Exactly.
scene, that hasn't been the scene for a
And-
very long time.
And in Matt's defense, you know, he said something, but he meant a little bit of a cliche to it. I know Matt very well, and if we needed him to go get a truck up at the other place, he would go get it. I think his point is, it's a lot.
It's gonna take you
difficult
longer to get
to
there
get there.
than me to
No,
get
and
there.
And then you may have to come back through the traffic situation, so I think that's just.
Right, but we already have equipment at the Park Street station,
where else-
so
Correct.
if we do nothing, then they don't have to go across town for the equipment.
That's like going back to, like, you know, I'm listening to everybody, going back to what Kevin says, it's like a lot of the, and you know what, a lot of taxpayers may have a beef with tearing down the usable space that we currently have. But if we're gonna accommodate all of this, we're gonna have to do something down there if we're gonna accommodate the headquarters and all that stuff. Whereas, like I said, so, you know what, if you wanna keep that space, yes, I'm not pitching for Tilton, wherever it was. You know, if you're gonna build a new station, one new station, that would be the one to replace the 100 and some odd year old station that's got your admin and all that. That's what I'm saying, if you don't wanna tear down usable space down there in Northfield.
Well,
So-
and I had a thought when it came to that. If there is any practical resurrection to that station, which there may not be, I mean, if during the building process, you know, I would think that if you could coordinate, look, get this barn squared away for us. Take out 4 doors, put in 3, put support brackets in, if it's feasible to do, get that done first. Then we could continue to operate out of that building as a call department, and they could work on the admin section of it. That's just an idea.
But the issue there is still the fact that that is more expensive than continue to utilize Park Street.
And that could very well be, and I will heed to you and the designers to do that.
But we had a big what if at our last meeting when we were here, looking at the layout and everything of Park Street, you know, bigger, the new building, the new proposal building down there. If the town of Northfield, which they have considered in the past, builds a new DPW department, and whatever they do with, let's just say they sell that property, we're almost compromised getting trucks out the door and things, you know. I mean, there was one proposal about coming out this way, you know, coming onto the asphalt area that we currently are able to use simply by virtue of the DPW owning that property, and they're not gonna put anything there because they keep their plows and their trucks. But if that changes, if we go build a big new beautiful building down there, and then it changes, and somebody says, this is my property line, stay off it, that's a serious compromise to our operations at Park Street.
I'd like to think it
You
would
have to
happen.
exit to the street.
What's that?
I think you have to exit to the street. That
You
might
have
be-
to exit, right?
No matter what you
No
do.
matter what, right? And that was one of the things, we were just mulling around. So there's just so many variables that are involved, it's hard to please or plan for everything. But I think there's gonna be a lot more compromise than on everyone's parts, really, to do this successfully.
Let me throw something out. I've always felt in the back of my mind that when we propose something at district meeting, we're gonna have to have two proposals in our pocket. Because my feeling is what we're working on right now will not pass. Now, that's anecdotally, that's my opinion. I think someone is gonna ask the question, well, have you thought about what you're talking about now? Leave Park Street alone, building, well, yes, we have. And here's what that would look like. So, I don't think there's any reason right now not to kind of tackle this in two avenues, with one being our primary, whichever one we decide being our primary, and one as a backup. What do you guys think of that?
We don't have that option. We are directed by the commissioners, and they have directed us where we're going. So and they've changed it before, because, I mean, we've changed so much, you get whiplash.
Well, I guess
So
you
unless they change or reconsider one more time to send us with a two-pronged fork, there's no point in us doing it on our own and saying, look what we did, because they go, yes, no, you told
It's a
them.
valid point. Okay, so with all that being said, what I'd like to, go ahead.
I just think you could potentially interpret two-station design as build or modify two stations, or, maintain two stations. So maybe having a plan of updating Park Street and doing something at Sanborn Road, and doing something at Sanborn Road, those both could meet
Are you saying or suggesting that the directive we have is up to interpretation?
I guess, yeah.
I don't think it is it?
I don't think it is.
I don't either. It's pretty black and white,
It's-
and
if
that's
there's-
why
I mean,
Mr.
If I
Sadler
gotta
is
figure out how
here.
tough can it be?
Two-station
that.
design, Park Street's a station, Sanborn Road's a station.
Okay. So, I guess what I'd like to do for the balance of our meeting tonight, 5 minutes.
I'm not very good at that, Paul.
I knew that as soon as you said it.
It's a good starting point.
So what I'd like to do is part, a major part of the discussion is reducing square footage. So what I'd like to do is take a look at the Sanborn Road one, because that's one that has been redesigned based on our recommendations. It actually ended up being 231 square feet larger. And we asked Lorero to focus on the size of the apparatus base, right, Chief? But I don't remember if that was for Sanborn Road or for Park Street.
I think it was a general direction to them in regards to designing that. We wanted to make sure that they maximized the space available to use it the most efficiently available. I copied you on the email. I can't remember the exact wording. I'd have to go look for it, but we told them keep it as small as possible, but still make it usable.
So has that directive been enforced on the new Sanborn Road?
This is the latest version that you have in front of you, with the edits that we made 2 meetings ago, because these weren't ready for the last meeting.
So what they did was they moved the EMS, the storage, and the turnout gear.
Yep.
They decreased the size of the mezzanine,
Yes.
reduced the size of the rear garage door,
Yep.
added an access door in the front. No,
Yes. Well,
removed one in the front, added,
I think there's too many doors in the apparatus room, but maybe that's a code thing. I'm not sure.
Give you one.
so this is the drawing that we have now has been reduced as far as the size of the apparatus base.
Yes.
Okay. Matt and Derek, do you have any input with regard to the apparatus base on this revised drawing?
Hand him that piece of paper right there, right now.
Yeah, I would cut it down to 2 bays. If it's strictly a substation, I would cut it down to 2 bays, enough for an engine and 2 ambulances.
So that's what Derek just handed me.
That's my opinion. But
Is it,
put everything else at the headquarters.
so
Two bays wide,
the
2 bays
apparatus
deep.
space is the
Yeah,
cheapest
stack it up.
Right.
space there is?
Right. Right.
It's the cheapest. There's
Right,
no-
but if you had to, you could add on to that in 20, 30 years. But like Michael said, we're not getting any bigger though. We're not getting more equipment.
I think Kevin's point is that's gonna save us the least amount of money. Like, yeah, it's an easy
But
cut.
it's the 1 square foot that we have say in.
Yeah.
You can't reduce the size of the hallways, the emergency exits, the dorm sizes.
I mean, I'm totally on board with it. I think the easiest way is, you just put the wall here, you have 2 bays, but I'm not sure how much money that saves in the grand scheme of things, and if we need to
Every
reduce room
penny
counts.
counts.
Right.
But to arbitrarily cut the bays there, so when you put 4 bays,
Well,
or essentially four pieces of equipment.
I would cut the bays and then I would take the doors out on the backside.
Right, but, okay, but we still, so when we go back to Park Street, we're looking, the current design for Park Street, right now, current, is like 6 vehicles. But we're still looking, so I was just adding stuff up. So, you have 3 ambulances, 2 engines and a ladder / engine. I mean, you're looking at 6 bays right there. You have to have the 6 bays for those, right? Are we gonna squeeze in?
Whatever you take out of here, you have to pick.
But that's what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, so you need 6 bays for that equipment right there. Do we
well,
not?
let's just go back and ask a more global question, which is, if we reduce Sanborn Road to 2 bays, 2 deep, we now have a ladder truck that is being removed, or one of those 6 pieces of equipment.
Right.
Where are we putting that equipment?
Well, that's where I was going, because you still have these other 4 pieces that don't take up a lot of room. You're looking at a forestry vehicle, a pickup, and then you're looking at the boat and the side by
Trailer.
side with the trailers.
You forgot the tanker.
Tankers in Park Street at this location.
I think it's listed as an engine, but it's actually
Yeah.
a
Okay,
tanker.
yeah,
This
well,
says an engine, but it's a
okay, so
tanker.
I have it down as an engine. Well, do it.
No, you only have
They
2
do.
engines.
It says engine, so did I miss an engine?
No,
No, it says 3 engines, my bad. So I
No,
had 3
yeah, the
engines.
We have 2
tanker is
engines, a
one of
tanker,
those
a
things.
My
ladder.
bad, so no, so there's
Those are
7 bays,
really
so that just adds even more. That's my point, we're like, when I started doing the math here, when Mike said 2 places, you're looking at 2 bays, 2 deep. That's essentially 8 bays.
How many pieces of equipment do we currently have at Center Street?
An engine, an ambulance, and a boat, and a pickup truck.
Just,
So
Boat and
Center
trailer.
Street could be replaced with 2 double bays then.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that we want to get the second ambulance there. Because with that second call, right now, we have to go traveling to get that second ambulance. We have to have a call guy come in and maybe get the second ambulance, maybe not. Maybe the deputy or myself have to go over there while the engine goes and does the call. We need the second ambulance with our career staff, but we don't have that possibility right now.
But to answer your question, that apparatus space at the Sanborn Road site would probably be 30% larger, because again, we gotta get an engine, we've got an ambulance in there, and we've got 4 full-size bays. And again, as we go back to the substation, you're proposing way down the road of 4 people. You got more apparatus than you got people to drive.
if you were gonna make a guess, how far away is 8 people.
I don't know, is that 10 years away? I
How
don't
about you,
know.
Chief? Do you dare?
I mean, my perspective is totally different than most other people because I'm in the data all the time.
Yeah.
I see this year our call volume going up by 400 calls over last year. I don't know what next year is gonna hold. If our call volume continues to increase kind of on that level, maybe level off a little, yeah, probably 10 years. We could certainly use 6 people right now. We're going crazy right now,
Which
and a lot of times.
Is why I think 8 is a lot closer than anyone wants to admit.
It probably is.
5 years or less.
But the reality is,
And what happens
That's-
to the call people?
the fire station is the cheap part. The people are the expensive part. You know, you build say you build a $10 million fire station, over 20 years, it's $50,000 a year on the tax rate. That's not really a thing. You hire one firefighter, that's a little over $100,000 a year on the tax rate. The buildings are the cheap part, really. It's the people. But you can't do anything without the people, and that's what we really need, is the people. But we can't hire, we don't have the option of hiring more people because we don't have any place to put them right now.
But we will have, and as soon as we do, within a year or two, we're gonna see a bigger budget with more people. I'll bet anything I'm worth, 5 years or less, we have 8 people all the time.
I'll only disagree because the construction period of the 2 stations will probably take that long.
Well, so in that case, it would be what, 7 or 8? It might be 10, you're probably right, you've been doing this long.
It's just, you got 5 years for this project's even done to get to 2.
And what happens to the standards and the needs and the wants and the desires in the 5 years? Are we gonna end up in a situation where, look at that brand new station that doesn't meet this, this, and this?
We're already there. I mean,
Oh,
we haven't
been
answered
there.
any of
We've
that.
been there.
Yeah.
We've been there for a long, long time and haven't answered any of it, so. I don't think, I mean, to use that as a worry, I would be a lot less worried about that.
Whatever we build will meet the standards at the time that it is built. After that, you don't know what's gonna
You
happen.
know what's gonna happen.
You don't know what's gonna happen.
Are these dorm rooms designed as bunk rooms, like
Still
with bunk beds?
No. Bunk beds, we don't do bunk beds. You want to sprain an ankle getting out in the middle of the night, then you can't go anywhere.
You like the Navy
You gotta
has a
take care of the
hot
person.
When you say bunk, do you mean one on top of the other, like
Yeah.
bunk beds like kids
No.
had?
Or like the military has, or
No.
like,
We don't.
Dude, permanent patio,
All right.
live in bunk beds.
All right, stop.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this. I
I'm
want
just
to
saying, we
make
could double the
progress
dorm
tonight.
space just by putting bunk beds in there.
Okay, so if we were to look at the Sanborn Road Station and say, okay, we're gonna make it 2 bays, 2 deep. Okay? We would have to move the ladder truck into one of the other bays, and that would mean the boat and trailer or the pickup truck, or both, would be displaced. Is that workable, Matt, Derek, Chief? If we were to remove one whole bay from Sanborn Road?
Does the boat go out in the winter?
No.
Alright, so I guess technically we would take the motor off the boat and put that indoors somewheres
Put an engine
during the
in.
Out
winter.
in the, oh, I thought you meant store it outside.
No, like does it go
Generally
on?
does not go out. Once the water freezes, we generally don't push the boat out. If we had to, we could still put it in the river.
So I mean, I don't know, I would think the truck and the boat's something that could be winterized and stored outside to a degree. Maybe we put like a lean-to thing on the side of the building and it's got some cover, but
I think we're just concerned about displacing the stuff right now instead of the actual nuts and bolts.
Your paper is folded in two directions, I just noticed.
It's not anymore.
Well, what changed?
I just wanted to look at the full view.
How deep is the standard bay? I mean, we've got 86 feet here. How deep is this?
About that. Anywhere between 80 and 86 feet.
But that's a standard double bay, right?
Double deep bay.
Okay, all right, good. I'm like, wait.
It depends upon, it can get deeper if you go with the bifold doors, because that puts 4 feet of space in the bay that is unusable because the doors fold into that space. So if you go with the regular doors, you're okay. But if you go with bifold doors, you have to add 4 more feet.
I don't think you can afford
Well, I don't
bifold.
think we're doing bifold
What?
doors.
No, I
We had
wouldn't.
never.
They're
Okay,
very nice.
so-
They're very nice. They have their pluses and over the course of time, they say they're cheaper, but upfront cost is considerably
Significant,
more.
isn't it?
Significant.
Okay, so back to my question. If we look at that apparatus bay and we reduce it by 1/3, what are we gonna put in there for equipment? So Derek says an engine and 2 ambulances. So we're gonna remove the pickup truck, remove the boat and trailer, and remove the ladder truck.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have 2 deep, so you could keep the boat and keep the pickup truck.
So one of Deputy Chief Albani's requests was that there be space for the ladder truck at Sanborn Road.
You still have space. I mean, if you have the engine
Look at
here,
the
and
ambulance
you have the engine here, you can still put the ladder there. There's one
Okay,
space.
so
Can you stack an engine and a ladder?
No.
Not
When I
there.
say stacking one in front of the other.
Not stacking
Yeah.
Well,
ambulances in the ladder,
wouldn't
looks
it
like
be,
that.
wouldn't it be 2 ambulances in the front and the engines in the back?
No.
I thought the ambulances needed to leave
So-
first.
So the way we're staffed, you would do 1 ambulance behind the other,
Maybe we could,
and an engine as opposed to, because you don't know what type of call you're gonna get. More likely it's gonna be a medical call, but if it's not, it's an engine call. So the engine you can't be pulling stuff out to get the engine out.
is actual placement relevant to us?
In the
the only
No, you just
reason
have
it's
to make it
relevant
fit.
to me is to make sure that what we're proposing fits. So that's why I'm asking these 2 guys their opinions. So if we pull the boat and trailer and the pickup truck out of there, can we put the ladder truck in there with adequate space?
Where?
Certainly
If
looks
we-
like it.
If we remove this and this, can we fit the ladder over in that rectangle?
Yeah, but why? In my opinion, why would you want to put the ladder over here? Why wouldn't you just put the engine or ladder truck could go here? You could have ambulance, boat, pickup, or boat, pickup, boat.
So what
Just
you're
eliminate
saying is the ladder would fit in that
The
space?
ladder would fit right here in this space behind.
So-
behind us.
So there would still be 6 pieces of equipment in that.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could be an ambulance,
Yeah,
an engine or ladder truck, the pickup, and the boat.
Okay, so I think that's the, do we need the engine and the ladder truck there? Or do we just need one?
And if you take one of these bays, it's one or the other.
It's just one or the other, but
It's
I'm
one or the
saying
other.
the engine or the ladder could fit there. This committee does not need to determine where stuff
no,
is
but
gonna go.
what we need to do is make sure that we're proposing a
Right,
big
I
building
understand
like
that. Yeah, I
So
understand that.
what you're saying, just so I get this finalized in my pea brain, ambulance, engine or ladder,
Boat, pickup, boat. And I mean, if we're doing space savings, then the ambulance, first ambulance goes out, and the second ambulance can go if need be. I mean, if the boat's going out, either the ambulance, the engine, and the pickup is going out with the boat. Like, that's how we roll right now. If you're gonna have 4 guys at this station eventually, you're gonna roll everything.
okay, that's,
Well, I guess the other question is, well, if you were rolling the ladder, the engine would probably already be gone.
So at this stage, this
For
is,
that
in my mind, this is a substation. It's either
All right,
going to
say
be an
it's
engine or a
the
ladder.
main, say it was the main station, and we get to that discussion.
if it's the main station, if we're going to a building fire, if we have the opportunity to take the engine in the ladder, I'm gonna take the engine in the ladder or have a call member come and grab the ladder. It's all situational based.
Right, but what I was thinking in my head is, if you're taking the ladder, the engine is probably already
Gone.
gone.
Most likely, unless it's a chimney fire. If we're going to a chimney fire or anything that we know we're going to need the ladder truck, I'm going to take the ladder truck right away. If I know I'm going to a motor vehicle accident where our extrication equipment's on the ladder, I'm going to take the ladder truck instead of the engine. So
That's why,
That's why this gives you flexibility.
this gives us the way it is right now, it gives us the most flexibility. If you take a bay out and we put something behind something, you might have to move it to get it out on a call.
Thank you.
I just think build 2 stations, 4 regular sized bays. And then you're like, oh, okay, so we got the stations that we're running, like, well, we can't fit the equipment in it now. And again, I mean, I know you guys are moving stuff around, but, I mean, right now, we're sitting with 11 pieces of equipment. And you can say these 4 here probably equate to 2, which still gives you 9. And if you build 8, you're 1 shy.
Well,
So in my mind, there's priority apparatus, right? You have your engine's priority apparatus, your ambulance is a priority apparatus. If you have, like, your forestry, in my mind, it's not a priority apparatus. You can pull an engine out to get the forestry truck out. You can pull an ambulance out to get the forestry out. The utility 3 is not a priority apparatus.
I'm not talking placement, though.
What are you
square
talking
footage?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about placement.
No, but I'm just saying.
11 days.
No, if you do 2 stations,
Yep.
2 wide, 2 deep,
Yep.
that's 8.
Okay.
So like I said, and you have full-size pieces of equipment, you have 7 full-size pieces of equipment, right? And then you have 4 more pieces of equipment, which could probably equate to 2 full-size.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. I
That's
misunderstood what you were
right,
saying.
but that's 9. So essentially, you've got 9 full-size pieces of equipment, which is 1 more than the base proposed in 2 wide, 2 deep. That's the only point. I'm not trying to get like where we gonna put this, where we gonna put that. It's
So
just,
then one has to be 3 wide, 2 deep, and one could be 2 wide.
oh, okay, but that's not what we're talking about here, because it was
Yeah, but that's what the math says.
that's what that says. I know.
The issue is if we cut off this 3rd bay here, then something's
So you gotta
not
make sure
being
you have
housed.
5 or 6 bays down in Park Street.
Yeah,
Right.
And it's not,
and we can't get larger at
Yeah,
Park
just
Street for
addressing the
various
proposal that was
reasons.
made 2 wide, 2
it's
deep.
a squeeze
I
right
mean,
now.
Places.
I think it's, I don't know,
It's
I'm gonna say it again, that the bay space is the cheapest, easiest nut to crack. And I think it's ridiculous that the command vehicle's not inside in winter when it's snowing. I
I mean,
think should be
Totally
undercover.
agree, but we started this
Yeah, 'cause
meeting
that's a-
tonight
that's a
with
cost.
2 deep, 2 wide, 2 deep, times 2. That's what was proposed. So that's what we've been hashing out for the last
2 hours.
2 hours, almost.
The cheapest base
Hour and a half.
space that we'll find is the base space we already have at Park Street. You can't get any cheaper than that.
Just saying.
okay, Nate, what I'm gonna ask you to do is take that thought and set it aside, okay? We'll come back to that in 4 or 5 months, but for right now, we're working on that document that the commissioners gave us, okay? What I don't want to do, I want to make sure we stay on track and we don't start, what if, because that's what we've been doing for the last 18 months. We finally have direction, let's take that direction and go with it.
I guess my concern is whether that direction is feasible.
That's
From a
all
cost
of our
perspective.
concerns. Trust me, there's not one person here that isn't thinking about how much of this is gonna cost.
It kind of seems like we're organizing deck chairs on the Titanic. We're talking about these little things when it's like, well, there's the whole cost to get over and the fact
I
that
didn't want to
will
pass
this
this out.
be at large you can accept the.
What we were just talking about is reducing by 1/3 the amount of apparatus space at Sanborn Road. That's what we were talking about. And the reason we brought I asked Derek for his opinion was because he's the one that's gonna be working out of this now smaller bay. What makes sense? Does it make sense? Because if it doesn't, there's no sense removing it. What I heard from Derek is that we can fit that same equipment in 2 bays,
Minus the ladder truck, or minus an engine or a ladder.
minus,
One
well,
or the other.
Yeah, one
what,
or the
and what Deputy Chief Alvani stated was he wanted enough space there for the ladder.
Yep.
So it would either be the ladder or the engine.
Well, because typically sometimes if we're down an engine, right, then
You use
we
the
use
ladder.
ladder. We've been down 2 engines before and we had to run the ladder truck.
So does it make sense to ask Chief Setar to talk to Lorero and eliminate 1/3 of that apparatus bay? And if it is, what do we do with that storage space and the overhead mezzanine that now forms the back of that 3rd bay? What's that?
Put a shed outside.
Yeah.
Eliminate back doors and have storage on the back wall. I'm just throwing it out there.
So wouldn't Lorero simply just do this?
More or less, I mean.
Yeah,
And how much are we gonna pay him to do that?
they're
Well,
tied
we gotta
into
pay
the
them
cost.
for a drawing anyways, one way or another. So what I'm trying to get is a consensus from the building. Do we want, let me throw these questions out there. Do we want to remove 1/3 of the bay? If we do, what do we do with that storage? And do we want to consider removing the 14-foot doors on the back of the building in order to utilize that wall space for storage?
I guess I'd like to have that conversation about eliminating those back 2 doors, because as Deputy Chief Robinson stated, that gives you that whole wall for storage, but it also frees up a whole bunch of property from having driving,
Well,
because we're already gonna be parking space condensed on that property. So somebody explain to me, I guess, the pros and cons of not having those, having things parked too deep.
Having doors on the back gives you flexibility, and so they don't go all out the front, they actually go out their own way.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's not like a drive-through.
Right,
We're backing into the building.
absolutely,
From either end.
from either end.
The vehicles are physically back to back.
Yeah, back to back. And so it gives you that flexibility, without having to pull stuff out, you can get that stuff out that you might need that, in that respect. Doors may cost a teeny bit more, but when I talked to the architect about it, he says that the cost difference is almost negligible. He says the doors are a little bit more, this is but almost negligible. And if that's the case, I'd prefer to have the door rather than not have the door. But if you're chopping a whole row of bays off, I think, to make it more appeasable to the community, and I'd still probably prefer to have the doors on the back, and I'd put the shed somewhere else on the property. There's a big piece of property.
Can we install the mezzanine above, within that 2-bay area, such that it's above one of the lower trucks, the pickup, or, in other words, could we still have the mezzanine here?
What's the proposed wall height in this building?
They didn't say, but I know the ceiling
It's
height
at least
is,
14 feet, because that's what the doors are. They're 14 by 14
yes,
doors.
I think the ceiling height is 16 feet, maybe 17.
Could you do mezzanine over the whole shop, locker, EMS storage area?
As long as we had a set of stairs to get to it.
So you've got that whole entryway. If you take EMS storage and move towards the front of the building, you've got this whole square block that's
Yeah.
not really designated as anything, except it's got a lot of doors kind of at the end.
You could could ask the architect at the site there.
Somehow.
And they, remember, everything that they build now has to be to code, it can't be like,
Yeah.
except.
Can't be a ladder against the wall,
Yeah, a fold down
like we do now.
Yeah,
What was the mezzanine for? Just storage?
storage. If
You
you
put a mezzanine over the shop and the gear locker room?
That's what I was-
That's what he was
Oh,
asking.
sorry, I blocked
yeah.
The question is how to get a
The
staircase.
question is.
But does it even need to be a mezzanine? Can we just put like
Tim was just saying
storage
this
on
is-
this wall? Because there are no doors on that wall.
Well, you can end up with storage against any wall.
No, but I'm thinking like on the outside, like some type of exterior lean-to type storage. Because we were talking about doing that along the back wall for like vehicles or something, but if we keep the doors and we're eliminating this bay and mezzanine, we have this whole flat wall here that we could.
But I think if you talk to the deputies or the chief and you went down and looked at the station, there's a lot of equipment that's racked somewhere in the building, and you need storage space.
This building as it is right now is lacking actual, you look in the room, the office area, there's literally no storage space.
And you came with how much storage needed, 2,000 square feet or something?
I measured it, it was well over, I had it written down, I can't remember what the number is off the top of my head, but I did tell you at
It
one
was
point.
a staggering number.
Yes.
If you would excuse me, I've got to get my phone fixed for work tomorrow. I need to get up to the mall. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for your input.
And thank you for what you're doing. And I know, having been there before, but certainly encourage you, you know, sometimes take a ride to a newer fire station, take a look around, and see what they got and see what their complaints are. And like I say, I'd love to get a hold of a floor plan of that one down in Londonderry. I just always liked that station. And get a chance to look at it online. I'm gonna sneak out. Thank you very much.
Take
care.
care.
Have a good evening.
And I'm like,
So, could we put stairs in the shop area without making that useless floor space?
perhaps. I think, it looks like there's enough space there, but I don't know for sure.
This is the front door, correct?
Exactly.
That's the back door.
Which store are you looking at?
Spinning around. There you go. So, that's the front door.
This is the street.
Okay, so
Yeah,
It says vestibule, that's the entrance.
This is the street.
out there, yes.
I was thinking maybe this could just, you know, you go in this door and then stairwell up there.
Or you
and
move the
then-
door open, the stair goes up or
Yeah.
something, yeah. Think-
But it's just the
think-
idea of like, you've got the wall here, so
Well,
you
you
should be
have
able to.
those doors.
But you can do a stairwell over doorways. Well, I guess
That's
it
what
depends
the-
on the rise or run.
That's what the chief is gonna do, is he's gonna talk to Lorero and see if we can either put a stair there or one in the shop area. But the bottom line is if we want him to address this, removing that third bay and moving that storage over, do we have an agreement that we want the chief to talk to Lorero about that?
I guess it really depends on what the firefighters think, because they're gonna be in that
Well,
space.
Derek's all
I
for it.
I would really like to talk to Deputy Belvani about that first. I mean, like I said, I would defer to what he wants in this. And you gotta make sure that whatever you cut out of here, we can fit in the other station. And I think
Maybe we can next week,
next,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 8th?
Can we create, can we
Anything that
just
is
create
the current plan.
a number of topics and talk, give the deputy Bill Laney a chance to
The 5th.
Excuse me?
I didn't put it in my, I believe we're meeting the 5th.
I believe they are.
Yeah, I don't have my calendar yet.
The only concern I mean, is it wise to do these things separately?
From
Sanborn Road and Park Street separately?
I mean, separate project.
Well, what I'm saying is, we're discussing these separately, and we're making, I'm just, are we gonna come back?
That's why I guess
The
I
next
think
meeting,
we
then
shouldn't
we'll
be
go Park
sending all
Street.
this to Lorero yet. I think we
But,
should.
yeah, that's why I'm like, we're gonna have them do all kinds of stuff, and it's just like, and then, the next time we meet, we're like, you know what? Look at Park Street now, and, well, let's go back to Sandman
I
Road.
think we're just gonna stick to Sanborn Road and get this figured out.
Well, I think part
Doesn't
of it
one
is like,
affect the other?
if we're cutting
Yes,
stuff
that's
at
my
this
point.
station, do we have space to add it at the other station, or, can we get rid of this because it's a duplication
Well, at the end
over
of the
there?
day, what does it matter? If you're cutting it from one, adding to the other, you're
That's my
not saving
point.
any money.
So
But we're not gonna
The
save
whole
enough
object
millions to
is-
I
make the
do have to
general
point
public
this out
happy.
here. We're gonna have 3 ambulances, right?
We're gonna have 4.
Eventually. And how many years?
And then the next ambulance we buy will make us 4. So we have one on the way, we're gonna have to order one very soon, that'll make 4.
Eventually we'll have 4.
So
Maybe
So
three-
we're
maybe
housing
3 or 4
ambulances
years
that
from
aren't
now.
in the station right now. That's the only thing I see.
I'd hate to do a 20 million or a 50. Let's say we save 5 million and we go down to around 15 mil. 15 mil is still a tall order. I'd hate to see the town actually, or the towns, the district invest in a $15-16 million building that is antiquated and less time than these current ones were. That's a bad example.
I know what you meant. but
Right.
yeah,
I'd hate to be
that better.
antiquated in a decade. I mean, if we know we're probably gonna add 2 more ambulances within a decade, and then we're like, oh gee, well, I guess back, 8 years ago, we should have built a bigger building.
How's that stay?
So, if you look at Sanborn Road, to your point, it's not something that you're gonna have right now. And the thing is that you can, if you bring it in, that means you have the space to bring it out. So what you wanna do is build a wall that they can sort of knock down later, right? And add to it. We did that in a manufacturing facility. We were able to double our space, and we did it 2 years after we built it. But we built that exterior wall designed specifically to knock it out because we weren't sure we were going to need the manufacturing capacity. It turns out we did, and we needed it really fast.
You're saying you did that within 2 years?
Yeah.
You think the residents?
Well,
that happened to be because of our business volume. So if your volume goes up that significantly and you need the equipment, it probably take you longer to order the new equipment. But I'm saying is that you can use construction where you can have walls that can be knocked down.
Right, but you're talking about private industry versus a municipality. And looking at our track record, we don't even have this yet.
I understand that, but I'm talking
And then
about
when
the
we-
feasibility of expansion.
Right. But when
okay?
we still have a bond
You're not cutting
going-
yourself off. You're not cutting yourself off.
If we have a current bond, and then we say, hey, we frigged this one up 8 years ago, we need more money to build onto this building. It's not like, oh, we're a private company, we can allocate the funds for it. We could be sitting here for.
I know you have to
Another
go
15
and
years
get the
trying to
vote on it, but the point is that the town is probably gonna be more willing to expand than take the full bullet now. That's, if you think about it,
Maybe, I
or the
think.
district. So
with the price
that's all,
tag, it's
that
gonna
my
be different.
experience is you can do that, and you can do it quickly if you need to. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that play into that, whether you're public or private, whether you got the equipment actually coming in. I mean, all of those factors are gonna play, but you can do that because you've taken the space in, but you've left it in such a way you can make it go out fairly easily. And to your point, Kevin, since that's the cheapest space, it's the cheapest space to build out because you're not gonna have all facilities in that area or anything. You just leave it as it is and say our future plan is in 20 years, if we need it, we're gonna knock that wall down and build it out.
That's what they said they were gonna do at Park Street.
Park Street's built that way, believe it or not.
Yeah.
As you face that building, the left wall supposedly has an 8-foot foundation.
You joined us.
Thank
Do you have
20 years
any,
later.
do you have any input, any comments?
I think it's all good discussion. I mean, luckily for you, you got 3 loud, boisterous people in this department here, and will tell you anything you want to hear. You're not afraid of any repercussions. So if you have any questions, ask away. I like the idea of cutting down to 2 bays, but I also see Kevin's point, like, it is the cheapest space. do we lose a student dorm? Like, I don't know, I like sleeping in a room with 2 other dudes because we talk at night. Like, that stuff I like. But I realize in the future we can't do that because higher females and like whole legality of it. So like, if you ask me, I would take all those dorms, I'd make one big room and we'd all hang out at night when we go to bed, but you can't do that. So I don't know, I think there is room for, there is room to save here. I like the idea of storage above, DMS storage and the lockers and the shop. I don't know what the shop is, but certainly set a floor out there and do something with it. So I kind of see it from all angles here.
Well, that's what we're trying to do also.
The shop is the same as what we have at Center Street. It's that bench with all the tools and stuff like that, and the same at Park Street with the tools in the little room and the bench on. That's what that is.
Would there be any cost saving in just going to 2 larger dorm rooms and having a male and female room, or? Well, I guess that is.
Okay, just taking.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's just a wall.
So
It's
the recent,
wall.
most recent,
Wall.
the most recent studies in firefighter health and longevity is that every firefighter should have their own sleeping space.
Yes, you don't want everyone to get sick at the same
Sick
time.
at the same
in
time.
each
Plus,
station.
everybody, there's guys that snore, the guys that don't. Everybody should be able to have a window so they can control their own atmosphere. And if you want to take care of your people, that's the way to do it. If you don't care about them, put them in a big room.
Okay, we're pushing 2 hours here.
So,
Helen, thank you.
You're welcome.
take care.
Thank you, Alan.
I think a handy piece of information to have when we go shopping, that's the cheapest part. Is that gonna make enough of a difference to get it passed or not? It ain't
Well, if it's,
telling
I
me
don't
that
think
it
so
won't.
either.
if it's $700 a square foot, then that's 14, that's 22 by 86.
Wait, but this isn't 700 a foot. So if it was to say it was $3 a foot, right? This
Three.
is 250 of it, and this is 50 cents. So of that 700, this is 600, and that's 100.
Okay, so
So if that's, what is it, 4,
it's 86 by 22. I thought Tim was.
I thought he was.
Oh,
working-
you pulled out your calendar, so I pulled
So
out
8
mine.
times 2 is, 80 times 20 is 1,600. That's 16 grand. 16 grand on a $20 million project is not gonna get you across the street. So I think it's gonna turn out to be short-sighted that we're cutting this and not doing anything about it. I said that out loud, but I don't know what the hell you do here.
I agree with it. Will we go to the town for 18 and say, yeah, but it was 20 until we got done with it? I don't,
That and $4 you can go to Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you want. It ain't gonna make a difference to us. In the end result. I mean, it won't from me.
I think people can go, well, why do we have 2 kitchens, 2 rec rooms? You know, it's like, oh, there's a lot of doubling of things, and then they'll be like,
All
oh,
right,
it should
two
just be 1
all right.
station, but
All
then
right,
they wanted to.
I've reached my limit. All we're doing is talking in circles. What we're doing here, Nate, is we're going by the recommendation of the 3 chiefs, 2 deputies and 1 chief, the recommendation that they gave to the commissioners. The commissioners were a committee of the commissioners. They asked us to follow that. The background to that is the survey, okay? That's what we're going by. What I don't want to do is be an octopus with all these tentacles going out. I'm trying to put blinders on and move this forward, because right now I feel like we just, the last 2 or 3 meetings, we didn't do a damn thing. And I'm getting frustrated. That's why I don't want to be going in all these what-ifs and all these different directions. And honestly, I don't care about the specifics. That's why we have these gentlemen. they're the ones that should
If
be
you're not gonna
providing
put a
us
kitchen on a
guidance.
station, count me out.
So, let's talk about our next meeting.
We didn't decide on cutting the bay, did we?
No, what we talked about, and it makes sense, is let's not have either of the plans modified until we look at both plans in totality.
Gotcha.
Does that,
It makes, perfect.
okay. So our next meeting is,
Next Monday.
what's,
Does that mean?
Tuesday.
Oh, is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday the 6th.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be
It is, yes, Tuesday, the 6th. That's why it wasn't on my calendar.
And
It's the
then
5th.
the next meeting is Tuesday the 27th.
Yes.
So are we gonna stick to like the first and last week so that we're like a week apart?
Well,
I think we
yeah,
were having trouble fitting in our
Right, I
second
understand
and fourth Mondays.
yes.
I mean,
So
this time it
my
might not-
schedule changed on Mondays. The second, yeah, we were doing the second and fourth Monday. I can no longer do the second Monday.
Right.
But again, it's open to everybody. So everybody's input is,
You have a problem with Tuesdays,
I do.
don't you?
I thought you said you had a problem.
My first Tuesday's just got complicated.
so we got May 6th, Tuesday at 5:30. We've got May 27th at 5:30, also a Tuesday. Do you want to wait and schedule June at one of those meetings?
Sure.
May 27th.
Yeah, I personally don't care when it is, as long as I get a reminder, because I showed you last time, if you do it on a Tuesday and don't tell me, I won't show up. That was Monday. You're all by myself, no one with that.
Did you make a lot of
I've done that
decisions?
before. Then I've gone out to the corner and looked at the public notice and I'm at the wrong place. So anyways, do you want to set June?
You won't make any difference to me. I have very little conflict that I can't control.
Is Monday better for everybody?
The only days I can't is Wednesdays. And the Deputy
Sean's-
Dalbany is on Wednesdays. We're both golfing on
You go
Wednesdays.
golf on Wednesday.
Yes.
You know what, actually, I could probably,
I can't
I don't-
do the second and fourth Tuesdays.
I'm here whenever you want.
In June,
actually, I
In
could do
general.
the second and
in
fourth.
general,
on
2 and
regular
4
basis.
Tuesday, no big deal.
If we're just
Planning
saying
board.
Tuesdays. You know what, that's what, I'm sorry, I take that back.
Wrong
I was worried about, because we did the first, I think we did the first
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
That's what I was
He
thinking, that's
said
why I was
glad
confused,
about
because I
it.
cannot
Oh,
do the first
you have
Monday
yes.
any longer. I cannot have first Mondays.
Okay,
So the first Tuesday, I'm tracking like a scud missile, which is not very good.
so we're gonna do
Track it like a
Tuesday
patriot.
the 6th, which is not tomorrow, next Tuesday. Tuesday the 27th, then 2 weeks after that, Tuesday, June 10th. And then 2 weeks after that
The
is,
June 10th, we have a commissioners meeting.
And I have a
June
planning
10th.
board meeting. I thought we were doing the first Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday.
We can make it.
Well, just because the
Didn't we end up Monday, Tuesday, Monday?
June
Tuesday,
3rd,
Monday,
it looks
Tuesday?
like we already set one up for June 3rd. It's in my calendar.
mine, well, no, isn't that the commissioners meeting, not the,
No, the commissioners meeting is on the 10th. Building committee meeting's on Tuesday the 3rd.
that's only 1 week after May 27th.
Yep. I'm just saying, that's what's in my calendar. I don't know, I didn't.
Right,
well,
because I think we were doing the first and fourth, because.
Okay, so we'll do the first Tuesday is June 3rd, and then the fourth Tuesday will be June 24th. And I'll send reminders for
That's
Kevin.
not gonna work for everybody.
Right.
nope.
I have my calendar to June 23rd, Monday. Did we
I
already
don't know
do
where you
June?
got that, chief.
I think we did
We
establish.
did. 'Cause I wouldn't be in my calendar otherwise.
doing the first Tuesday and the fourth Monday.
Yep.
That works better for me.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, hear that. Are we still feeling like we can hit the 26th meeting with something that makes sense? Because here we are pushing May, next month is June.
Well, if we're back to two meetings a month, you know, honestly, we should be done this in the next 2 meetings, maybe 3 meetings. And then it's gonna be Lorero, and then it's gonna be public outreach. So,
I just heard, it's December.
you just heard what?
It's December. Because you know, because I just, this one, I'm okay, we're going to make it pretty
Well,
good.
I think May 6th, our very next meeting, we should have a lot to talk about, really, if we're gonna look at Park Street and Electric Gallery. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And Deputy Relbany will be back by then.
Right,
Do you
May
have-
27th, maybe not, I don't know.
Not back for the 8th.
Okay. I thought, I saw a class in there for him, on the 5th.
Oh. I guess he wasn't coming.
To
Maybe-
work.
Yeah, for work back, yeah.
So you gave us the revised Sanborn Road.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
also
have updated
I
Park
do
Street?
have the updated Park Street.
Homework with that.
Yeah.
It's a 2-pager. Pass it down. This is the second floor.
I do not, thank
Ah, here we go.
If you, do you want me to quickly go over it?
One
Sorry, here you go.
We're at the homework, you take a motion, go.
So, because of the property, we tried to squeeze the building to make it not as long as short as possible, because of the way the property is and the work that needs to be done. All the office space, administrative space, living space for the firefighters is all on the first floor. The second floor is the meeting room, which is very large, but it's the size of, it's what's left over after you do the firefighter dorms and locker areas.
Need an elevator,
You need an elevator.
and this is the street.
And the street is on the bump outside, kind of.
In front of the lobby, the bottom of it.
Where the lobby is? Yeah, that's the street
This
that's
is
out here.
Park Street.
Yes. The apparatus room has 5 bay doors. The reason being, trying to maximize the use of the space and being able to get vehicles out. So 2 vehicles, it's kind of like the way Park Street is now, except there'd be another one. Providing that we keep Sanborn Road the size that it is, everything will fit in both places. This does have a little extra space that maybe work if you take some of the stuff out of Park. If you make Park Street only 2 bays, you might be able to, without enlarging Park Street, you may be able to fit it in here. You might have to readjust a couple of things.
Do we being fire district, own enough land over here
That's
to swing that out?
Not
And the
sure.
town of Northfield sells that to Dunkin' Donuts?
not sure. So, if that's not the case, then we cut the doors off and everything just goes out the front. But
Would that change this dimension?
no. This dimension is about as big as it can get on the piece of property that we have.
There's a lot of bathrooms to clean.
Toilet rooms. Where'd that word come from, toilet room?
Water closet.
What's this dimension?
It's,
I can't see it.
it's basically 60 by 80. It's basically the size of
What's there now?
what they're now. It might be a little bit different, but basically that. I can't read the even printed big. I can't read it. It's,
I got a brand new magnifying glass at home that I'm gonna take a look at it with.
Are these PDFs, Chief?
yes, they are.
Can you send them to everybody
I
so we
will.
can zoom them on our computers?
One of the things that need to be changed right away is we're trying to get a second set of stairs upstairs from the living area, and the architect moved the decon room up against the locker room and put a hallway here, but you still have to go in the apparatus room to get upstairs. So that's like one of the issues that we're working on. If that's the case, I just push the thing back up against the stairwell and make it a straight run out to the apparatus room like it was before, but then he changed it. So the training room is bigger than we anticipated, but it's just leftover space otherwise. I mean, we could probably make it smaller, but we're just putting a wall up and there'd be nothing there.
And that's upstairs.
That's upstairs.
That's the only thing that's upstairs.
And the bedrooms. And showers, regular showers. And that would be, the bedrooms are in the back, then the showers are in the middle, and then towards the front is the training room. There has to be that hallway there. I asked about that, getting rid of the hallway, because why do you need a hallway? And it's egress code, 50 feet.
We've got one of those too.
I said, just make it a bigger room then. Save the wall, save the sheetrock. No,
When is Sean
They
returning?
get involved in codes.
I thought he'd be here for the next meeting, but
But
I know he's not coming back to work to the 8th.
To the 8th, I think he's in class all next week.
He's in
Working
the
on
code
airplanes,
class.
going up to the engineer's offices going, WTF.
Is anyone musing the idea of what construction material will be?
No, we have, my idea is that everything's just block, it's net block. On the outside, and then the inside, metal studs and sheetrock.
I'll entertain a motion.
Dennis moves that we adjourn the meeting for this evening.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. 7:38.
7:38.
I'm
Thank
doing this
you,
because we were
Lauren.
talking about just trying to learn our voices and whatnot.
Take my pen now?
You just put it in your thing.
You're right.
I'm like, I didn't even see you. I knew you opened it.
I can't believe you showed up.
Is that a work?
Hey, Chief, you want us to take us back to the station?